Have you ever looked at what your local government is doing and just scratched your head? Well, in the city of Tura, a new rule about registering pet dogs has done exactly that, sparking a huge debate. It's a fascinating story that really asks, what happens when a city's priorities seem to be all about pedigrees, while its citizens are just trying to avoid potholes? This quote right here, it just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of the matter with a really sharp question. Is it actual governance, or is it a farce when the focus is on taxing dogs instead of, providing water? Let's dig into that. So, first up, let's talk about this puzzling new rule. We need to look at the specific order that kicked this whole conversation off in the first place. So, not too long ago, the Tura Municipal Board put out this notice. It's pretty straightforward. If you live in Tura and you have a pet dog, you have to get it registered. Now, on the surface, you might think, okay, what's the big deal? Seems like pretty standard city business. But as you're about to see, the context around this rule is, well, it's everything. And that brings us right to this tale of two very different priorities. On one hand, you have what this city is working on, and on the other, what its citizens are practically begging for. This is where the story gets really compelling. And wow, when you put it side by side like this, the disconnect is just crystal clear, isn't it? On one side of the scale, the city's big focus is registering pets. But on the other side, you've got the crushing weight of what people actually need every day. Water that runs 24/7, roads you can drive on without wrecking your car, and a way to manage garbage. This imbalance is exactly where all the frustration is coming from. And look, we're not just talking about a few minor annoyances here. The to-do list of unaddressed issues is long. We're talking chronic water shortages, roads that are famous for their potholes, and really important projects like a whole new water supply system and even a medical college that are just stuck, completely stalled. When you see it all laid out like this, that sudden focus on dog licenses starts to feel seriously out of touch. So you gotta ask, right? Why does this happen? Well, this brings us to a fascinating concept called majoring in the minors. Believe it or not, there's actually a name for this exact kind of problem, and some solid theories that help explain these kinds of, let's be honest, illogical decisions. And really, that's the question at the core of all this, isn't it? When you're up against these huge, complicated problems, is it just human nature for a bureaucracy to turn its attention to something smaller, something more manageable? Maybe it's a way to just create the feeling of progress. And here's the official term for it, majoring in the minors. It's this tendency for people or organizations to pour all their energy into small, almost trivial tasks. Why? Because it gives them a sense of accomplishment, all while they're avoiding the bigger, messier problems. Think about it. Counting and registering dogs is a task with a clear start and a clear finish. But rebuilding an entire city's water infrastructure, that's a massive, years-long headache. Now, there's another idea that fits right in here. It's called street-level bureaucracy. This theory suggests that public officials, the people on the ground, will often gravitate towards tasks that are simple and easy to enforce. It's just so much easier to check if someone has a piece of paper for their dog than it is to manage the incredibly complicated, messy business of delivering a public service like clean, running water. You can totally see how this is playing out in Tura. Okay, so all of this leads to a pretty fundamental conflict, a choice between governing and serving. What does this choice actually mean for the average person living their life in Tura? At the end of the day, you could say a government has two main functions. It can govern its citizens, enforce rules, collect fees, send out notices, or it can serve its citizens, provide the essential stuff, maintain the basics. And the feeling in Tura right now is that the municipality has definitely chosen the easier path of governing over the much harder but much more important path of serving. And this quote, wow, it just boils this entire complex issue down to two devastatingly simple questions. Ask anyone in town those two things, and their answers will tell you absolutely everything you need to know about the city's real priorities. So, let's wrap this up. Let's bring it all home with one final question that really gets to the core of this whole dilemma. First, just think about the pure economics of it. How much money realistically can a city make from dog registration fees? And more importantly, does that money even begin to cover the cost of the people and the paperwork needed to enforce the rule in the first place? Sometimes majoring in the minors doesn't even make financial sense. And that brings us to our last, and I think most powerful question. Why is it easier for an administration to count a city's dogs than it is to count and fix the potholes on its main road? The answer to that question tells you everything, not just about a government's priorities, but about its sense of purpose. And that's something for every single one of us in any city to really think about. Thanks for tuning in.